Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN. Today, we're going to be going over all of the G2 KvK teams that have officially been announced. Now, as of recording this, or by the time you watch this, I will have the public sheet updated as well. If you do want to get access to that, make sure you join the Discord. A link to that in the pinned comment description down below. Once you join, head over to reaction roles, this channel here. You'll go and select CallofDragons reaction, which is this one here. So you'll just click on this button, has the most amount of reactions. It'll open up this category. If it doesn't, you'll just click the header here. You'll go to COD data stats and you'll see all the stats here. It's going to be line 6 on KvK statistics for AOD. This is the public sheet, right? So as an example, here's the public sheet right now. You can see there's a number of people on it. Probably because they saw me do something. There was like 5 or 6 a little bit ago. So, but it's plus or minus. And then secondly, is that again, a huge shout out, of course, as always, right, to the people that help me do stats, right, which is over at Hero Scrolls. Again, you guys can check them out if you're interested in data bot information. I always like to at least let people know, which is if you head over to where it says support, and then you can click on here. To go and get some information. It's on line number 4. Okay, with that out of the way. Also, I did send an updated list over to Ezio, who works with Fuzzy, and those are my POCs over there at Hero Scrolls, and I sent kind of an updated list of some things. So things that we talked about during the live stream when we streamed the team announcement phase, those have been sent. So hoping that we might be able to work those in on the next scan, which I'm planning right now to try and have next week on Friday when the matchups are announced. So I can get that maybe Friday morning and we can update the numbers. And then we're going to try and shoot for another scan after Brink of War so we can look at what the matchups will look like after the training and power up event, right? Okay, let's get into the goods here. We're going to start bottom up. Let me do a quick breakdown of how this is going to work left to right on the columns because there is some differences here. I am going to try and find a way to work in kills, deads, heals on top of the merits. I just have to do like a decimal thing where it's like 3.25 billion. So I'm going to try and do something like that going forward so it doesn't have the whole number written out. Maybe even for AP, just so I can fit more on the lines. So that is, I'm going to try and shoot for that when the matchups are announced and have that all kind of ready to go. However, this is how it is for now. So we have Ally. This is number 1 Ally at the time when registration closed. Or during, I think the last couple hours of registration. So if anyone would like for me to update their ally name for their main ally, just shoot me a DM, let me know the kingdom number and the ally tag you would like to be used, and I'll update that. The ranking here for top 300 power and ranking for M over P or PvP activity, this is a rating value number. So what this is meant to define is where does that kingdom rank when we sort the list of all the A, B, and some of the C's kingdoms on a top 300 power top down, and then for M over P or PvP activity top down, right? So where do you rank on that list? And then obviously depending if you're an A or if you're a B, right? So as an example, you might see some here, you might see like 2 1s, you might see 2 3s, right? Up to the amount of A kingdoms, right? Which is there's 28 A kingdoms, 56 Bs, 6 As are Paragon, 4 Bs are Paragon. So basically what this number is meant to define is the lower the value or the lower the number, meaning the higher placing kingdoms on that particular board, and the higher the number, the lower placing, right? So it's kind of meant to almost, I don't want to say like, it's meant to kind of define like, who's underdog, who's kind of going middle of the pack, and then who's kind of going OP teams. You might be able to interpret that way in some cases, right? Obviously, if it is also, visibly egregious in those in that sense. But it's just kind of meant to have another little, value gauge, if you will. And for those of you that get that, and hopefully you appreciate just an extra added metric. Top 300 power is top 300 player power sum total, excluding 15 million and below accounts, right? So kind of excluding those farms. So it's a little bit more of an accurate top 300 power. Now, from my understanding, this is applied as well to merits, kills, deads, and heals that it goes off of. Then we get Again, M over P, which is PvP activity percentage. However, the total number here for the sum on the teams, this one I adjusted. And so now it's going merits into 300 power here from the team total. So before the number was basically doing an average of the individuals, this basically is now more of a team number on like what is the average PvP of that team. And then again, CH25, what's the average power AP for CH25 accounts in the kingdom? And then M is merits, P is power. So this is how many total players are at 10 million merits, 20, 30, 40, 50 million merits and above. For power, I am eventually going to do that for all of these. This time around, the way that I had coded it with Fuzzy or had asked him to do it last time was where we did how many total players are between 80 and 100 million power, instead of just showing how many total players are at 80 million power and above, 100 million power and above, etc. for all of the columns. You'll still get those at the 200 plus, 300, and 100 plus, so I did make sure to define that. But for anything that is, for example, and the 250, right? So from 200 here, these are all pluses, but from here, it's how many total players are between 80 and 100 million power, 100, 125, 125, and 150. So just to showcase some of the differences there as quickly as I could. With that being said, the first team here, K211, VP22, and Swag. They are, and again, we're starting with lowest power, working our way up. They come in at 41.7 billion power. They have an average PvP activity 15.08%. Average power player is about 86.6 million. We have 168 100 million plus players. We have 200 million plus there on the team. Team 2, we have 21 SW, GDW, AFK. We have here for the team coming in at 41.9 billion power. We have a PvP activity percentage of 19.35. Again, pretty good, if not really good. Then we have average player power, 80.5 million. We have, 341 players on the team here that hit 10 million merits and more. We got 6 that hit 50 million and more. Got 178 100 million pluses with 3 200 mil pluses. Next team. We got GNR, NWE, and Hell, I guess that is right. 42. Whew. Crank one out. 42.3 billion power. We have a PvP activity percentage here, 15.86% for the group. We have 292 players, average power player, 95.4 million. We have 292 players that had at least 10 million merits last season, with 6 of those at 50 million plus merits. Team has 196 100 mil pluses, 2 200 mil pluses. Next team, we got WGL, Unit, and Beck, 42.7 billion power. We have 14.68 PvP percentage. We got an 87.6 million average player power, 256 players at 10 million plus, and 11 players at 50 mil plus. We got 182 100 mil plus players, along with, and again, where am I? Hang on, 60. Okay, good. Sorry. Okay, gotta make sure these formulas are right. 182 100 mil plus players, and then we had 6 200 mil plus players. 194. Next team here, we have Null Sura BXB. They come in at 42.8 billion power. We got 14.46 percentage for PvP activity, 90 million average player, 241 players at 10 million plus merits, 11 at 50 mil plus merits. We have 193 100 mil plus players, and we have 6 200 mil pluses. Then we get to 345 IW1 -FU and WTF, 45 billion power. We have 14.69% for PvP activity percentage. We got 83 million average player power, 277 players at 10 million merits last season, 7 at 50 million. We have 190 players at 100 million plus and 2 players at 200 million plus. Next team here, we have is going to be FA, ASC, and WICF, 45.5 billion power. We got 16.84% for PvP activity. We got 87.7 million for average player. 337 players hit at least 10 million merits last season. 9 of those at 50 million plus merits. We got 253 100 mil pluses here. And then we have 4 200 mil pluses. Okay. Let's go. Next team is going to be 30 NA, NXG, and DAD at 45.8 billion power. 15.73% for PvP activity, 94, pretty much 95 million power for average player. We have 291 players having at least 10 million merits last season, 9 of them at 50 million, 226 100 million plus players, and then we have 19 200 million plus players for that team. All right, next, X4 Seal HD. We have 46.4 billion power, 17.06 PvP activity. We have 89.6 million for average player, 343 players hitting at least 10 million merits last season, 8 of those at 50 million. Then we have 216 100 million plus players and 4 200 million plus players. Next team here, we have WoW, and GRZ. A little bit of a dark horse. We got 46.7 billion power, 20.96% for PvP activity. Right. The next highest we had was the 19.35, right, with the 21 SW team. So again, very respectable. And we might talk a little bit about that later. We have 96 million average player power, 317 players at 10 million plus, and then we have 35 players at 50 mil plus, right? So that's the most. If you look at up until this point, 2 other teams had 10 players above 50 million merits last season. 260 players at 100 mil plus, and then we have 13 here at 200 mil plus. Okay, next team. We got his RFF, SG97, S2AK. They come in at 47.1 billion, 14.9% for PvP activity, 81.6 million for average player power, 330 players at 10 million plus, 7 players at 50 mil plus merits, 215 players at 100 million power, and then we have 5 players at 200 million power for the team. Next, RAC. Oh, and I should also note, anyone in purple is a Paragon, and this is all organized the same way, where the first team is an A seed and the next 2 teams are B seeds. Probably should have said that in the beginning as well, but if you're still here this long, now you know. If you didn't already pick up on it already. RAC Bomb ZTO, 47.2 billion power, 15.65% for PvP activity, 90.4 million for average player power, 247 players at 10 million plus, 17 at 50 mil plus, and then we have 220 players at 100 mil plus, and 10 players at 200 mil plus. Next team, ROG, VKG, and DK, 47.5 billion power. We got 12.78% for PvP activity, 99.4 mil, yes, power for average player, 268 players at 10 million plus merits, 3 of those being at 50 mil plus merits. We got 271 players at 100 mil plus, 6 players at 200 mil plus. Next team, we got FRED K191. Here, 47.55, almost 56, or I guess 0.6, I guess I could say, right, if I'm rounding. Billion power. Here we got 11.89% for PvP activity, 87.7 million average player power, 249 players at 10 million plus, 3 of those at 50 mil plus. We got 208 at 100 mil plus, and then 2 players at 200 mil plus. Next, here we got TC AVIC AI, 48.17 or 0.2 billion power for the team, 14.96 PvP activity. We got average player power 93.5 million. At merits, 317 players hitting at least 10 mil merits last season, with 11 of them hitting 50 million plus. 248 players at 100 mil plus, 6 players at 200 mil plus. Next team, we got CC, FSK, SN. Don't think I saw that hilarious FSK meme that and now I'm forgetting who put that on. But I did say that made me laugh to that person in Gen Chat. 48.7 billion power, 9.45% PvP activity, which is, it's below 10%. 83.7 million power for average player. 189 players at 10 million plus, 3 of them at 50 mil plus. 179 players at 100 mil plus, and 7 of them over 200 mil plus. Next team, we got BTX, MFS, DTF. We have 49 billion power. We have 14.44% for PvP activity, 111 million, we'll just say, power for average player, 269 players hitting 10 million merits last season, with 16 of them hitting 50 million plus. 255 players at 100 mil plus, 28 players at 200 mil plus. Next team, A2G05DKWER. They're at 49.2 billion power, 13.33% PvP activity, 90.6 million power for average player, 275 players hitting at least 10 million merits last season, with 1 hitting 50 mil plus. 194 players at 100 mil plus, with 9 of them, being 200 mil plus. Next team, LXV, Mojo, and Kin, getting close to the higher sets here at 50 billion plus, but for now, 49.8 billion power for the team, 13.07 for PvP activity, 84.4 million power for average player, 257 players at 10 million plus, 5 of those at 50. We have 215 players at 100 mil plus, with 3 of them at 200 mil plus. Next team, MFD, CFRA, and XW. 52.7 billion power, 15.69% for PvP activity, 87.2 million power for average player. Was able to hold that one in. 347 players hitting 10 million merits last season, with 11 of them hitting 50 million plus. 255 players at 100 mil plus, with 8 of them being at 200 mil plus. Next team, NTS MOD AG. Here, 52.7 billion power, 14.68 PvP activity. Then we have 87.4 million for average player power, 270 players hitting 10 million merits plus, and then 17 of those at 50 million merits plus. 227 players at 100 million plus power, 19 of those over 200 million. Next team, BNR, SHPZ, LOC, 53.5 billion power. We have 12.93% for PvP activity, 80.4 million for average player power, 305 players hitting at least 10 million merits last season, with 5 of them at 50 million plus, 239 players at 100 million plus power, with 5 of them being at 200 million plus power. Next team, we got OMG, GEX, and 1UP at 53.55 billion power, 15.03% for PvP activity, 105 million power for average player, 348 players having 10 million merits or more, 11 of those at 50 million merits plus, 296 players at 100 million power, above 100 million power, with 22 of those being above 200 million power. Next team, FWY, RKFG. They're at pretty much 56 billion power, 14.86% for PvP activity. We have 98.9 million power for average player, 359 players hitting 10 million merits last season, with 7 of those being at 50 million plus. 290 players at 100 million power and above, with 11 of them being at 200 million plus power. Next team, we got Echo 404 and then Bear. 56.2 billion power here for the team. We have 18.22% for PvP activity, 98 million power for average player, 274 players at 10 million plus, with 48 of them, right now the new record for a team, being at 50 million plus. And obviously the 18.22% PvP activity is not too shabby. Looks like a couple teams had some similar-ish ideas. 273 players at 100 million plus, and then we have 44 of them at 200 million plus, right? So kind of new records there, at least on those lines. Next team, 25IL, TFS, Lion. They're at 56.9 billion power, 16.18% PvP activity, 95, pretty much 96 million power for average player, 424 million, 424 players at 10 million plus merits, with 7 of them being at 50 mil plus merits, 329 players being at 100 million plus, 12 of those being at 200 mil plus. Then we get the next team here, which is going to be EIS SCL Rage. Presumably was the #1 team for a while. They came in at 65.9 billion power, 19.25% PvP activity, 104.5 million power for average player, 437 players hit 10 million merits last season, 26 of those 50 million plus, 360 100 mil pluses, 100 mil power players plus, and then with 51 of those being over 200 million power. And the top team for this KvK is WBA Pod BPA. They come in at 67.9 billion power, 21.82% PvP activity, which I think is the highest, if I recall correctly. 92.35 million power for average player. 472 players hit 10 million merits last season. 57 of those, 50 million plus. 322 100 mil power plus players are at the 100 mil power and above, I should say. And 41 of those being over 200 million power. Okay. There you go. That's it. That's all she wrote. That's what we got. Now, the next thing that I'll probably be doing after or at this point, if you're still hanging out with us, is maybe some matchup predictions, right? What matchups do I think might be, the best as far as kind of per KvK? So I might do like some matchup predictions, put a video out on there, see what you guys think on that one. For now, top 3 KvKs, what are you looking at? Who do you like right now for the first KvK? Who do you like for the second, the third? And what do you guys think about the teams? Any data points that stick out to you? For me, I'll just say it because I've already alluded to it. I think the strategy and the tactics that some teams came in with, where they didn't necessarily care too much about being in like the strongest team, they valued a little bit more on the PvP activity percentage. And there's a couple teams right now, right, with WBA, right, they're over 20, and I think there's 3 teams total that are over 20%, right? So it's them, it's WAO, right, at 20.96, and then the other one, which was I think 2 teams over 20, right, and then 21SW at 19.35. So like to me, I think that's very interesting of a way to kind of go about it, which you would almost value, and I was saying this on stream, is kind of more of a long-term stat to look at, because that stat more so indicates the longevity of how your kingdom, of how your team will be able to fight throughout the KvK, and how much engagement you're going to get at each zone opening, at each choke, at the final zone, heading into Dragon. It just feels like this is more of a, to me, it almost feels like a little bit more of a value stat. Like this is the stat I feel like I'm going to get the most value out of potentially, right, in a sustainable way throughout a KvK season. Anyways, just my thoughts. You guys let me know what you think. Hopefully you enjoyed this, man. This was a lot of work, but hopefully next time and in future seasons, I'm going to have everything lined up from Fuzzy and Ezio working on this. And again, whenever the adjustments are able to be made, it's going to make doing all the plugging and everything so much easier, where I will literally most likely not have to do any more individual loading on my scout accounts to pull data, because we did have to do a little bit of that here, especially for like the merit stuff, because that really never existed before. So that's hopefully like a new area we're going to be able to add on. But aside from that, as always, I'm happy to be done. And now hopefully on to easier and more efficient pastures going forward. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. That's it for me. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.